Well, we need to know a couple of things. Number one, we need to know how the world's premier law enforcement agency managed to lose 5 months worth of text. And what's also troubling is in the text we do have, they're discussing how to avoid text being captured and secured. So what's missing is important, but also what's there is important. It is manifest bias, not just against Trump, but against his kids, against his business interests. There's a text where they hope the Trump hotel fails. That is a level of bias that you rarely see and you never see from law enforcement officers. What's also troubling to me is this text that Johnny Ratcliffe found last night about this secret society. Now, I have no clue what that means because that was not the phraseology I used, but it's the day after the election. And it's the same two people that we're discussing a little bit later in the text, the damage they had done with the Clinton investigation and how they could, quote, fix it and make it right.
What's out there? Today is Wednesday, May 23rd, 2018. I'm Papa Bear, and this is What's Out There. And of course, keeping up with our regular Wednesday tradition, we've got Peter Kling with us today. Good day, Peter.
Good day. How are you today, Barry?
Oh, I'm not doing too bad. Are you echoing on your end? I'm not sure about these settings. I don't know.
That echoed just a little bit. It kind of threw me off for a second, but I'm fine now.
Okay, good. Yeah, you know, it's this software I've got. I call this my welfare studio. And I do want to thank Michael Vera for allowing me to program on his network, on L&M Radio Network, Late Night in the Midlands. Because otherwise, I'd never get my points of view out there. And actually, the opinions I express here are not necessarily those of the network or its administrators or owners. So, just so we've got that up front. But yeah, I have to thank Michael for allowing us to do this, especially on Wednesday. And thank you, Peter.
It's always my pleasure.
There's always, there's a lot of stuff going on out there. And I was listening to your show last night, and you were talking about the Pope. The Pope says he's going to retire. And I guess there was a conflict with that. There was kind of miscommunication. Well, no, that was the other one that resigned, that retired. But apparently this one is going to do it too. And, of course, after just receiving this bad news he got from Chile, right?
Yeah.
Every bishop there decided to go home.
Well, they were all under indictment, if I recall correctly.
No doubt. Is that part of the sealed indictments we're talking about?
I honestly don't know. When Trump issued his executive order on December 21st, it's the winter solstice. Happy Saturnalia, everyone. Anyway, when he issued that executive order, he first declared a national emergency, and that executive order was to address human rights violations mainly aimed at human trafficking and child trafficking, pornography, and pedophilia, and conspiracy. And now both of those are wide paintbrushes if you want to look at it that way. But conspiracy, interestingly enough, when you went down and looked at the points under the conspiracy, using the U.S. government for your personal gain falls under conspiracy. So all of these politicians who get paid, a few $100,000 a year, who somehow became millionaires, have used the government for their own personal benefit.
Jeez,
and according to Trump's executive order, that's breaking the law now.
I wonder if they could make that retroactive.
I don't think that they actually can. However, here's the situation. If you're a politician and you've been making money through your contacts in the lobby, and lobbyists, insider information, knowing how to where to put your right stock trades because a government contract is coming up with company XYZ because you helped award the contract.
Right.
You see that's insider trading, and people on Wall Street go to jail for that.
Well, yeah, right. Okay.
You see, but people in the government, you never hear anything about it.
No.
if you're part of an appropriations committee and you're writing contracts for, or you're in the process of putting out bids for a contract, and you know that a specific company has gotten the contract, well, heck, you could turn around now and invest all the money you want in that company. And it's not going to be called insider trading because you're a politician and part of the system. So they've
Right.
all protected themselves quite nicely. And people, one thing that most people are not aware of, but it's true. Washington, D.C. is not part of the United States of America. It is one of 3 independent city-states that exist within the country that they are in and are above the law of the land of that country.
I'd,
The United
I'd,
States is 1,
I'd
the
like
City of
to,
London is 2, and the main one is in Rome, the
right.
Vatican.
I'd like to specify because the Organic Act of 1871 actually made Washington, D.C. the territory called the United States. So that is where the United States is formally. But we are, as states united, it's different. It depends on where you stick that capital letter. Remember, anything that begins with a capital letter is a proper name, right?
Absolutely.
Okay, well, if it's a capital U, it would be a proper name, and a capital S would be a proper name. Okay, and that's what they are. But no, when you say United States, it's a small U and a small s because we are united and we're states, right? The only capital there in the U.S. of A would be A.
Pretty much.
Right,
Pretty
but
much. And
the
it's all manipulated legally, and
well,
because they make the laws.
it's word semantics. It's word deception, is what it is.
Without a doubt. And you see, take the word incorporation or corporation. You're
Right,
dealing essentially with a dead body, a dead entity,
a corpse.
one
That's
that
right.
cannot be held, a corpse, one that cannot be held accountable for anything.
But that's what a person is too,
Yeah, but they
basically.
monetize us. They monetize us at birth, so that's a
Yeah,
whole
but
other situation.
they fool us though. It's semantic deceit.
Yeah, without a doubt. We're never told the truth.
Right.
We are never
No.
told the truth as a people. We're not, and we as individuals and as parents propagate the lie. People say, "Well, what do you mean?" Uh, Hello, Santa Claus.
It's what they're taught. They
Uh,
don't know any
yeah.
better
Well, you see, we indoctrinate our children with lies right from birth.
because we believe the lies, and that's why we do it, and we adamantly stand behind them. And that's something else. I mean, like I said, if people read the Constitution and knew exactly what it was all about, they would be amazed at the freedoms that they've lost just to learn them and say, "Wow, you mean I don't need to license anything? I mean not even a marriage." Okay,
Absolutely, absolutely. Why would you have to have a license to marry somebody? You know how ridiculous that is?
exactly.
Now, I could see if you have a dog having to get a dog license because of the issues that go along with that. But
Right.
here you have 2 consenting adults that decide to cohabitate together and start a family. Wait, I need a license to do that?
No.
No,
No.
absolutely not. You see, you can live with anybody in a married state and be totally accepted as man and wife without having it formally blessed by the state.
Right. Exactly. There are other ways to do it. I mean, you can have a priest do it and get a witness and sign an affidavit. Done. I
But
mean,
Barry,
if
I
you want to
asked,
worry about the
and
paperwork, it's done. That's it right there. But um, you don't even have to.
well, this is where God's laws are above man's laws,
Right.
and I think back of a conversation that I had with one of my mentors, very brilliant man, biblical scholar, and I asked him. I said, "What happens? What would happen if you were stranded somewhere and there's somebody of the opposite sex that you're with, and you decide, okay, the 2 of you want to have a relationship and become husband and wife?" And he said, "Well, if that's the case, the first thing that you would do once you met civilization is declare your intentions toward each other and let it be known that you are living in a married state. However, that married state is between you, the person that you're married to, and the Creator.
Right.
You see, that's all that really matters.
Right.
Because we were given the command by the Creator when we go right back to Genesis, the first chapter, be fruitful, become many,
Right.
and fill the earth.
Right.
Oh, you need a license to do that. No. It doesn't say anything about a license in the scriptures.
Right. Exactly. Nor the Constitution, for that matter.
Yeah. So the Constitution was to ensure our God-given rights.
That's correct.
Oh,
And
well,
that's
God
why,
doesn't exist anymore.
and that's
What
why
do
it
you
was the
say?
First Amendment.
You know, it's like, come on. If
It was the
people would
very
just use a little
first.
common sense.
Come on, all the persecution that was going on in Europe, why do you think that was the first one?
Persecution in which way?
Religious.
Oh, well, boy, now you're going to open up a can of worms here, Barry, because
I
you're
know,
hitting
you
real
got
close to home
Catholic
for
and
me.
Protestant and all that stuff, and the same stuff they went
But
to in
let's-
Ireland and all that. Yeah, I get it.
Okay.
You know, but
Let-
that was the
let's-
basis for them
let-
coming
let's-
over here, was
hold
to
on-
get
hold
away
on a
from all
second,
that.
Hold on a second.
That
But-
European
because
religion.
You started something here.
I sure did.
Let's take a look at the Reformation itself, because we started this confirmation out with the Pope wanted this conversation with the Pope wanting to retire here. Okay, let's go back 500 years ago, because the Reformation happened exactly 500 years ago, last October 31st.
Yeah.
And the Reformation wasn't to start a new religion; it was to reform the church. Now, what did they want to reform the church from? Well, if you read Martin Luther's 95 Theses that he nailed up on the door of the church, in the Catholic Church in the city of Worms, you will find that he was exposing the church for corruption, for
Right.
extortion, for extorting the people out of their money.
Uh-huh.
That was the whole brunt of it.
Right.
How the church was was misusing scripture in order to literally fleece the flock.
Right. Yeah, tithes, 10%. Right?
Well, it wasn't even that. You see, what the church had gotten down to was selling indulgences. Oh, you're going to burn in hell for
yeah,
what you
right,
did.
right.
But you can buy your way out.
Yeah.
Or, you know, the priest comes to the grieving widow, and this is medieval times. These people don't know any better. This is the 1500s. So the priest comes up and he tells this grieving widow whose husband just passed away, oh, well, your husband's stuck in purgatory. You're going to have to make a donation to the church so he can continue his journey to heaven.
Right.
Really? And why does the Bible say that? And this is why they burned Bible readers at the stake, because when people started reading the scriptures, they realized that the church was lying to them.
Mm-hmm.
And so they burned them at the stake. Now, here's the issue. My family was right at the beginning of the Reformation of the church. They were personal friends with Martin Luther. The original family name is Klingenschmidt, which means bell maker. So the family were metal workers, and they were famous for their bell making. Who was their biggest client? Who was my family gonna be making bells for?
Churches. Obviously.
There you go. Obviously. And so they rose up against their main client. Think about this. To expose what was going on, to expose the lawlessness that was going on in the church 500 years ago. And for that, the church declared war on them. Now here's the thing. My family, along with several others, helped hide Martin Luther during this time so he could translate the Bible from Latin into German, just in time for it to be printed on the Gutenberg press. Gutenberg invented the movable type press, and so the Bible was mass-produced in German so people could read it for themselves to see the truth that was in there, and that allowed the cat was out of the bag, and the church lost control. It lost millions of dollars in the 1500s. It was actually millions of pounds, or the equivalent of dollars back then. They would have been using gold and silver, but the church lost a fortune, and so now it has to figure out how to make that money back.
Right.
And so what we get are the knights. The knights come to the rescue. The Knights of the Church. The Knights of Malta is the main one that we're going to look at right now. They've replaced Knights Templar. Now, for a quick history lesson, the Knights Templar invented our banking system, and they became the second most powerful entity in all of Europe, next to the church itself. The Knights Templar controlled the kings. King Philip the Fair owed a large fortune to the Knights Templar because he borrowed money from them for war. Think about that. And it was King Philip the Fair of France who got his cousin, the Pope, I forgot the Pope's name, to outlaw or ban the Knights Templar, and he reluctantly did it after a great amount of pressuring. And the intention was to get the Knights Templar's gold, which somehow disappeared.
Right. Mr.
Vanished.
Kling, the bell maker. Right?
There we go. so yeah, the cry literally went out across the land to expose the corruption of the church, and people could read it for themselves right within the scripture.
Yeah.
And for that, the church declared war against those families, against my family, and for over 250 years, we were murdered. They sent out their agents, members of Opus Dei, to come and kill us wherever they could find us. And so we went into hiding. A lot of them left the country. But we lived in what is essentially just below the area of Berlin, and moved from there all the way to southern Bavaria. And interesting, my great-grandmother's people were French Huguenots. They were facing French persecution by the Catholic Church in France. And they left France and immigrated to Germany. And they met right there in southern Bavaria. So
right.
The rest is family history. But we have the same thing going on today. Now, I pointed out the Knights Templar. The Knights Templar were subject of who? The Pope.
Right.
We don't have the Knights Templar officially existing today, but we do have the Knights of Malta.
Right.
The Knights of Malta, which are above the law of the land, which report or are under the authority of the Pope and the Vatican. Well, who are Knights of Malta? There's a long list of them. They're from every country. Nelson Mandela was a Knight of Malta. Ronald Reagan was a Knight of Malta. Yeah. Daddy Bush was a Knight of Malta. Bill Clinton, a Knight of Malta. Baby Bush, a Knight of Malta. And the Obama nation had a letter of endorsement from the Knights of Malta.
Right. And
so essentially, the Knights of Malta have controlled the White House since the days of Reagan, since 1980.
Right. And your key players now are basically the CFR. You know what I'm talking about.
Council
for Foreign Relations.
Yep,
CFR,
Council of Foreign Relations.
Karl Rove and a whole bunch of them guys, you know.
Well, they're advisors. They're advisors to the elite.
Yeah. And actually, John Bolton, he's kind of put the screws into what's happening in Iran is because of him. And Korea, actually, because Trump appointed Bolton. So something's going to have to change. But they are communicating, so I imagine something has changed, right?
Well, we've got a lot of fake news coming out about this whole thing in Korea being in jeopardy, and from what I understand,
it's not.
From what I've heard this morning, it's not.
No,
it's not. No. And Trump's just playing to it, but it's basically signed, sealed, and delivered already.
It was was paranoia about someone coming here to visit, and if their visit would be safe and all that, and Trump is like, look, I guarantee it. I guarantee their safety. Personally, I'll guarantee it. He says that's not an issue. So,
from what I understand, they already have the agreements into place to modernize North Korea. And if
Yeah.
If Kim Jong, with Rocket Man,
Yeah.
if Rocket Man wants to be a hero, a real hero to his people, he's standing on the precedent of being able to do that, because if he brings all the technology that South Korea has into North Korea, it will be a renaissance for the people of Korea, and they will love this man forever. He
Oh,
will go
yeah.
down in Korean history as being the person that did. And I think they're all playing, who changed, when I say who did care about the people, and who changed the paradigm.
There's a whole deal going on. Well, actually, what was it? Was it today or yesterday when they did the ceremony uh, for their nuclear testing plant? They shut it down. Their testing grounds. They shut them down. North Korea.
I believe that was yesterday.
Probably
I believe that was
yesterday. Yeah,
yesterday because
it was
so
quite an
yeah,
event.
it's a done deal,
Oh
and
yeah.
it's the last attempts of the deep state to try to derail
Well,
this.
see, the problem is we had clowns in there. And that was the PowerPoint. So we got the
Yes.
clowns out, and that takes care of that. Now there's a deal going on with you know how the deep state is. They like their secure communications, right? And their secure communications happen to be ZTE, which is why all the fuss with ZTE lately. Okay, and well, that's not going to work either. They're trying to get secure communications. As a matter of fact, it was what was it? Bruce Orr's wife, Nellie Orr, who worked for Fusion GPS, who applied for a ham radio license about a month after they contracted with Christopher Steele to avoid that data thing, but it didn't work because NSA is collecting ham radio data too. Just so you people know.
If you're transmitting it and it doesn't make any difference how, you can be sure that someone is listening. You know, whether they're doing a direct surveillance or not's another story. And as far as all of this FISA warrant stuff, yeah, if you're gonna do an official surveilling, they're gonna go to the courts, they're gonna get the warrants, but there's so much that goes on behind the scenes. Barry, I worked in the telecommunications industry for almost 15 years in pretty much all phases of it, and I I sold the stuff internationally. Did it with mobile communications when mobile communications first came out. Was in the international markets, setting up networks from country to country. Did it domestically with businesses, setting up their own virtual private networks before, and this was all before the internet. And one of the things that I would do, because I was dealing with all these different people, I would always listen to call setup time. That was a big thing, call setup time, listening for the clicks in the analog system, because digital hadn't taken over at that point. And so when you do this day after day, year after year, it becomes habit to listen to your call setup quality. And it was about 2 weeks after I sent my manuscript for Letters to Earth to my publisher. I made a phone call one day, and I hear click, click, click. And I was like, wait a minute, why am I hearing 3 clicks here? Where did that extra click come in from? Because it should only be 2. You should hear the click. At that time, you should hear the switch from your local office to the long distance office, and then you should hear another click from the long distance office to the central office, and that's
Right.
it.
Right. The only other
Where
click
was
is when they pick up the phone.
Yeah? So where was this third click coming in?
Right.
And then on my cellular line, I had a click. Now wait a minute. Why am I hearing a click on a digital line?
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
And that was 2 weeks after the manuscript went to my publisher. So yeah, my phones were tapped. It wasn't paranoia. You're dealing with somebody who actually worked for the people that built the system, who
Right.
just might have a clue.
And now it's
So,
different. I mean, everything that goes through it, they're recording. They just go
oh
back
yeah,
through it at will.
well
So,
now all the switches are digital. Everything that's done is
yeah.
digital. It's all compressed,
Hmm.
and so yeah, everything that Every syllable, every sound.
Yep.
Barry, I
And they
watched.
don't need
Somebody
to.
sent me.
They don't need to
Now,
listen to it now. They can go back and listen to it in a week.
I'll tell you two things. Number one, somebody sent me a video the other day, and it was from China, Beijing, and it was how their CCTV system, their surveillance system works over there, and they have everybody identified all through facial recognition, and they know who's walking around and who's doing what. The cameras are focused on these people, and as the people are walking, there's descriptions attached to each person.
Yes, China. They'll find everyone in their population within a second.
Yeah. So now,
Yep.
there was
There's a lot going
forgot
behind
the
that
name of
too. There's a lot
there's
going
a
on
s-
there too. There was a satellite that was going to go up that didn't make it. It blew up. The SpaceX deal. You know, that had a lot to do with communications and stuff. There's a lot going on in the background right now. A lot.
without a doubt. The other thing I wanted to bring up is Mexico. I believe it was Guadalajara. There was so much crime going on in Guadalajara, Mexico, that they actually put up a drone that photographed the city and digitally transmitted the information back to the central computing system. Well, the police came across a dead body in an alley.
Uh,
They went back to the computer. They brought up they went through the archives. They located that spot. They watched the whole execution, then followed the executioners back to their home.
uh-huh. Yep.
All through surveillance that no one knew what was going on
Right.
because it was a small Cessna that they had automatically flying around the top of the city,
Right.
constantly surveilling the city.
Right. I
So
don't know.
they come across the dead body. Okay, where did this body come from? Let's go back and look at the computer tapes. Oh, here are the murderers. Here's where they live. Let's go get them.
Yep. Yep. And that's
They,
the way it's going
yeah, they had that case wrapped up in 72 hours.
Yeah, and that's the way it's going to be. You know, I've been saying the only thing you have private nowadays is your thoughts, and even that's iffy. Anyway, we're going to take this break, and we'll be right back. This is What's Out There. Don't go away.
There are days that the red pill is bitter in my stomach, but I can't get it back out. I think because I have to. I speak because I have no choice. I walk through this dark age we're in with open eyes. Listen to Open Eyes on latenightinthemidlands.com. And together, maybe we won't stumble and fall.
The L&M Radio Network offers a chat room for you, the listener, to connect at the top of the website and join us. No subscription is needed at either L&M.
Why subscribe to Late Night in the Midlands, you ask? Well, I'll tell you why. Late Night in the Midlands covers everything, and through the thousands of expert guests who have joined Michael Vera on his show, come pieces of the big puzzle, which started many years ago. Michael and his guests reveal information dating back to the beginning of time. To this very moment, Michael Vera not only brings you the best guests with the best information, but Michael is not afraid to call out those who are less than honest. You see, in this day and age, we need a radio show we can count on and a radio host we can trust to expose the truth one show at a time. So become a late nighter and subscribe now. Talk radio like no other. Late Night in the Midlands, bringing the truth back to talk radio.
Do you need toner for your Epson, Hewlett-Packard, Canon, Brother, Apple, or Sharp printers? Look no further than Laser Technologies. In business for over 20 years, they offer the lowest prices on toner on the web. They can also repair your laser printers and toners fast and easy. Call their expert staff today at 561-792-9600 or email us at service@laser-technologies.com for all your toner needs. All toner is shipped nationwide. Why wait? Get the lowest prices on toner. Call or email us today.
There is a better radio show, beyond that which is known to the people. It is a radio show more informative than others, and as timeless as infinity. It is the equilibrium between light and dark, between the sheeple and the paranormal, and it is heard at the base of man's ignorance and at the summit of his knowledge. This is the radio show of imagination, a show we call The Secret Teachings.
I'm losing my controls here. Music by bensound.com. Ben Sound does the music here. Shout out to the affiliates. Let's see, where are we? High Point Radio, at the top of New Jersey, the highest point of New Jersey, bringing us into New York, New Jersey, and Pennsylvania on 100.5 FM and 1620 AM. And also 101.7 FM WCET, Columbia, South Carolina, Columbia Talk. And, of course, the mothership here, Late Night in the Midlands Radio, L&M Radio Network, at latenightinthemidlands.com, lnmradionetwork.com. You can catch us on iTunes, TuneIn Radio, and the Paranormal Radio app. And also on the Paranormal Radio app, you can catch this show 12 hours after the broadcast time. And if you miss it, if you can't catch it there, you can always catch it at YouTube. YouTube name, username. Yeah, what's out there? My goodness. Like, share, and subscribe, please. And tell your friends about us. If you like what you're hearing, please, we'd like to hear from you. And there are plenty of comments there in the comments section, so feel free to leave a comment. All right. I think we're back. Peter, welcome back to the show. I think we're back here.
We're somewhere.
We're somewhere, yes. Anyway, when we were before we went to break, we were talking about privacy, and it seems though we don't have any privacy anymore. They're listening to your phone calls, they're listening to your microphone on your computers. And if they're not listening to it now, they can go back to it any time they want to. And
well, yeah, that's exactly right.
And the thing is, we don't have any privacy anymore. I mean, like I was saying, I'm even starting to wonder about our thoughts because, you know, these terrestrial beings able to read, you know, telepath, stuff like that, you know. And of course, there's electronic stuff. Now they've got it so it's reading jaw movements and stuff like that. It's crazy. It's crazy. So I'm kind of wondering about this whole privacy thing.
Well, you know, they come down to a point. I'm getting some feedback if you can adjust those levels. Anyway, we are at a point where we are so surveilled that we can't even do anything anywhere without it being recorded.
Exactly.
Unless we're living in a remote area.
Right.
And, you know, so if you're walking through any city street, there's no telling how many different cameras are actually watching you walk down the street, besides the ones that the government put up.
Or the one you might be carrying in your pocket.
Yeah, that one too. Yes. And
Can't
you know,
forget that
here's
one.
an interesting thing. I was watching a report on smartphones, and they took a smartphone. I think it was a Samsung Galaxy, and it was not activated. In other words, it
Yeah.
was not part of the system yet. But the phone was turned on, so it was keeping all the other functions were working. However, it wasn't transmitting anything back. It was just keeping track of where it was. As soon as they activated that phone, it did a data dump back to Google and tracked every single place that those people took that phone to.
Yes. Yep. And Google does that because most every phone that you've got registered with a phone number or you have a contract for is going to have a Gmail address. Google's going to track you even if you shut it off.
Without a doubt.
And Google's got a
But the
bigger
but the
database
phone
than Facebook.
the phone will track you regardless of whether it's activated into the system or not, and then it'll report back.
Right.
So, you know, we are giving our personal, just like we talked about, with the Constitution, we are giving all our personal information away.
Right.
It's like so many people all got upset when they found out that Facebook was selling the data that come on. It's not Facebook, it's Confession Book.
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah. Come on, you put it out there. What do you think is going to happen? That's public. It's
Yeah.
public record.
Absolutely. So, they're selling my data. Well, if you didn't give them any data to sell, they wouldn't be able to sell it now, would they?
That's what happens when you give them your name, right?
Yeah. And that's one of the reasons I moved to a remote area. I used to live in a urban area. Outside my front porch were 20 million people between me and New York City.
Right.
Time of disaster, I saw what happened after 9/11. It was time to go.
Right.
It really was. We don't use our common sense. We let our phones do our thinking for us. We no longer have relationships. We have sexual encounters.
Yeah.
And then people wind up in jail because of them.
Yeah.
And it's like, alrighty now.
Well, they're physical relationships, which is really not, it's not has nothing to do with the brain,
Yeah, and we've all been brought to this point by what? By the deep state, by the media, and it's all a method of controlling people.
Training.
Yeah.
It's not education. It's not indoctrination. We can't call it that anymore. It's training. Okay. See, this is why I had a problem with the military. I knew basic training was going to be training, but I didn't realize all the training that was going to happen after that. Besides the alienation. I mean, it was so bad for me. They told me I had to work Saturday and take Monday off because they really didn't want to deal with me on Monday. I'm serious. Oh, I'm serious. Oh, yeah. And I was in the bilges chipping paint. Okay? This is what... yeah. Alone. On a Saturday, chipping paint in the bilges. Think I was there doing that?
Sounds like a fun job.
You think I was there doing that? You're darn right I was, because that's what I said I would do. Yep.
And that you followed your orders.
I loved it. Leave me alone. Put me alone in the bottom of the ship with an air gun and earplugs or something to cover my ears, ear protection. Bye-bye. Leave me alone. I'm done. I'll do my job. When it's done, I'll come out. Or lunchtime, whichever comes first.
There you go. Well, let's just look at the history of our last 10 years. When we had a black president, I knew one thing would happen. The United States was going to be facing racial problems again, a racial issue. And let's face it, 10 years ago, we did not have the racial issues that we do today. Why? Planted by the deep state to create discord within America. Everything is planted by the deep state to belittle us, bring us down, put us in a box, and eventually in the ground.
Yeah.
And so if we go along with their plan, then we're going to be victims. If we
Right.
start creating our own future, then we won't be their victims. So
Right.
there's a lot in taking personal power. But here's a point I want to make. The deep state was planted by the Knights of Malta, who are above the law of the land. And the Clintons are a prime example of this. They have extorted that to as far as they can. Again, extortion by an agent of the church.
They
Think about
partnered
that.
with it.
Yeah. Well, it's subject of.
Right.
Essentially, through the knighthood, the knight reports to who? The king. In this
Right.
case, the king's the pope.
Yep.
So now, if the knights are being brought down and the deep state is being exposed, they're using corruption and what else to expose the deep state?
Right. Exactly.
Human trafficking,
Yep.
pedophilia.
Right.
It comes down to what happens to the children. Where do
Right.
8 million children vanish to every year? Got any
Exactly.
answers there, Padre?
Huh.
So if it's all connected together, you've got the deep state involved in pedophilia. You got the Knights of Malta involved in pedophilia and worse. It stopped at the Knights? It didn't go to the king?
Yeah, but Peter, I mean, people have bad memories, you know?
Yeah, absolutely they do. But you
And
see,
it-
that's why this is all being choreographed.
Mm-hmm.
It's all being done at a specific time to accomplish a specific end.
Right. And,
But
and
the elite knows what's coming.
it's not so much that people have bad memories, it's that they don't want to go back and research it, and then when they do research it, they come back with a false history.
Well,
That's the
because
hard
there's so
part.
much false information out there.
Exactly. And like Michelle Obama said, remember, we're going to rewrite history. We're going to change history.
But that's been going on for centuries. So that's nothing new.
Yeah.
However,
you're not gonna
they're
change
trying
history.
to change current history. And
Well,
that's the difference.
okay. And that's why they went on board Netflix, right? They're going to do their own network. Susan Rice is there too. They took her on a few months ago. So
How long is this going to last? Come on.
I don't know. We canceled yesterday. We made sure it was canceled yesterday is what happened. We canceled the first time out, but for some reason it got billed again. It's like, no. We canceled this. You know? These people are tough. They find every excuse they can to keep that turned on. They do everything they can just to, we've got to keep it turned on. You've got to keep one part of it, something. We're not going to lose you as a customer. That's the way they see it. And they do everything they can to stop that from happening, from stopping, they don't want to lose you. They don't want to lose that revenue. And I hollered out through the door. I mean, I get frustrated. And usually if they hear something through the background, they might get frustrated in the back. But, hey, if they want to talk to me, I'll talk to them. We called you to have it turned off. I don't want to hear your excuses. Turn it off.
Exactly.
That's the way I am.
Well, it's all manipulation and control.
Yeah. Is there a reason
And
why you
if
don't
we're
want
going
it?
to let our... I'm sorry.
Is there a reason why you don't want to cancel? Yes, there is. And it's none of your business. I mean,
Yeah. If we're going to let ourselves be manipulated and controlled, don't expect to be manipulated and controlled.
Mm-hmm.
It's just that simple.
I have at least 2 reasons for doing everything I do. Okay? And that information is given on a need-to-know basis. You don't need to know. Turn it off, please. That's that.
Exactly. And so the more power we take back for ourselves, that's less power we're giving to other people. I think a lot of folks don't have the right concept on that because let me explain it. If you see something that really irritates you, it's best to ignore it. Unless you have to deal with it, and then go deal with it, take care of it, and so it's not an irritation anymore.
Right.
But if you find something that irritates you, and then you say, oh, this is so terrible, I got to go share this on Facebook. So what you do is you put it on your wall, and you've given power to the irritation, and now you're sharing that irritation with other people, saying, "Look how terrible this is."
Right. Yeah.
Well, now it's one thing to expose a falsehood. It's one thing to expose a lie. It's one thing to expose what's going on in this planet. It's another thing to let those same issues be driving factors in our life. You know, if you're driving
Yeah.
down the road, you don't see the street sign and stop and just keep on staring at the street sign.
That's right.
You say, "Uh-huh,
You take precautions.
okay, that's where I am."
Right.
And you keep on driving. Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly.
Or you use it as a bearing to know where you are.
Right. Exactly. A mile marker.
Yeah. So when I see the things happening in Washington that are connected to the Knights of Malta, which are the Knights of Malta are connected to the Vatican, now I
Yeah.
can go back and look at the biblical prophecies and say, aha, here's how this is going to come about, because this is how, well, the first thing that's happening, 2 Thessalonians 2nd chapter, the man of lawlessness must be exposed.
Yeah.
What do we see happening in Washington? The man of lawlessness being exposed. Who's the man of lawlessness? He makes himself a god and sits in the throne at the throne of God.
The Pope.
What? What human on earth fits this description? Makes
That's the
himself the god?
That's the Pope.
Yeah, clearly.
Absolutely. He
And
wanted
so
to
now-
rewrite the Bible. He wanted to rewrite
So-
the what was it? The Lord's Prayer.
Yeah, he wanted to make all sorts of changes, and
yeah.
he says Jesus was a failure.
Uh,
Come on.
no, Jesus
Look-
was not a failure.
Yeah, but
Jesus
according
was
to
a
this
very
book-
good example. Let me tell you. You know, just the life he lived was an example, and it's. Hey, I try to do it myself
well,
as
start
much,
trying to start doing.
as best I can. You know, I mean,
Yes.
how far can you walk? You know.
You see, let me go back here. We're exposing all this stuff in Washington, and people have some idea. I'm talking about the masses.
Yeah. No, this is.
Those who are still upset that a woman isn't in the White House.
Yeah.
You know, and so you have this Trump derangement syndrome that they're totally blinded by. Meanwhile, all of this stuff is being ferreted out, and we're seeing how the DOJ and the FBI have been politicized by the deep state, which means
Right.
they were under the control of who? The Vatican.
Right. Yeah.
So all of this is coming out. Where do you think it's going to lead to? If you expose the Knights of Malta, and not just the ones in this country, but and I'm talking about their evil doings.
All roads lead to Rome.
There you go. And so as this all comes out, and we find out about the child trafficking and the espionage and the treason, yeah, all roads lead to Rome.
Exactly.
And so that brings us actually to a whole nother biblical prophecy, Revelation, the 17th and 18th chapters, where an eighth king comes about, exists for 1 hour, and its only mission is to destroy Babylon the Great,
Right.
which is the religious empire of this world.
Right.
So that's what's, we're going to see it exposed, and we're going to see it destroyed.
Yeah.
And that's what's in our future. So over the next few years, expect that to happen.
Oh yeah, that's going to happen. That's for sure. I mean, we're watching this stuff unfold, and you said what, a couple of years maybe? You think it's going to take that long? I mean,
well, they're dragging out this whole it's so over 30,000 indictments, sealed indictments now, allegedly.
yeah.
They're
30
dragging it out.
Have they hit 30,000? I know there was 20 something, 24,000 or some stuff, and
Yeah, I had heard that there was another 4,500
actually,
indictments added to it or something like that.
well, they set up this. It was announced yesterday. They set up this special prosecution to examine the special prosecution, right? But this guy that's doing it, he has power. All right, he can make decisions. He can make judgments and do, place the sentences, and he can do it anywhere in the country he wants to do it, which includes Utah, right?
Yep, I was just going to say they're going to do it out of Utah.
You know, I mean,
Let's see,
there are
they
plenty
still
of
have a
Trump
death
supporters
penalty
there.
in Utah, don't they?
Hmm?
They still have a death penalty in Utah, don't they?
I think so.
And treason is a
It's a hangable
death
offense.
penalty act.
It's a
Yeah.
hangable offense.
It's a
Now,
capital
Utah.
offense.
Oh my goodness, Utah. Do they still have death by hanging in Utah?
Ooh, good question. I
And would it
honestly
be-
don't know.
And would it be public?
Well, the media would get a chance to cover it now, wouldn't they?
I imagine they would, huh?
So we'll have to see how this plays out.
Yeah. I mean, we're watching it all come down. We're watching the pieces come down. I mean, something that takes 100 years to build, a little over 100 years to build, or 200 years to build, you're not going to take it apart in 1 year. You know, and getting to where he is now, plus getting what he's done. I mean, all that has to be taken into consideration. There's something there. I don't know what it is, but there's something there. And he has a force behind him that's unexplainable, almost terrestrial would be my thing, would be my guess, from what I can see, because this is well beyond you, me, and the neighbor down the street. This is only going to be something that we can witness and sit back and put on the armor of God and grab your popcorn, you know? Yeah, I'm serious.
Well, let's take a look at a couple of facts here. A very interesting one crops up on November 10th, 2016. 2 days after Trump is elected president, so while he is president-elect, the Israel's Sanhedrin, that's the religious high court, tapped both President-elect Trump and Vladimir Putin. More so Trump, saying that to fulfill their
Wow. Dude, that's not your old lady, is it?
Sorry about that. It's about as close as I have to one.
I was going to say, your old lady's a dog, man. Oh, never
Yeah,
mind.
she is.
Go ahead.
She's got her papers.
Okay.
Anyway.
Enough with the
The
sarcasm. Go ahead.
Sanhedrin taps both Putin and Trump to rebuild Solomon's temple.
Right.
And they refer to Trump as the latter-day Cyrus the Great.
Yeah.
Now, history lesson. King Cyrus was king over Persia. He was part of a dual world empire, which were the Medes and the Persians. King Darius was the king of the Medes. Cyrus, after 70 years of imprisonment, or essentially captivity, by Babylon,
Yeah.
Cyrus walked into the city, literally walked into the city and captured it without taking a shot, without making a shot. He did so while Babylon was having a drunken orgy.
Yeah.
And they diverted the river Euphrates, and he marched his army right in on the dry riverbed, right under the gates.
Well, march us right to your website. I've got to close this up.
Not a problem. 70 years ago, Israel was created. Think about it.
Exactly.
Anyway, the website is www.peterkling.com. Join me on Facebook. Just look it up, peterkling.com. I post a lot of information. And be sure to listen to our radio show, which is on Tuesday nights, the final countdown on this same radio network, the L&M radio network. And so there you have it.
Thank you very
much. If you haven't read it already, read Letters to Earth. The future is yours.
All right. Thank you very much, Peter. And have a wonderful day. That, my friends, is What's Out There.
Well, we need to know a couple of things. Number one, we need to know how the world's premier law enforcement agency managed to lose 5 months worth of texts. And what's also troubling is in the text we do have, they're discussing how to avoid texts being captured and secured. So what's missing is important, but also what's there is important. It is manifest bias, not just against Trump, but against his kids, against his business interests. There's a text where they hope the Trump hotel fails. That is a level of bias that you rarely see and you never see from law enforcement officers. What's also troubling to me is this text that Johnny Ratcliffe found last night about this secret society. Now, I have no clue what that means because that was not the phraseology I used, but it's the day after the election. And it's the same two people that were discussing a little bit later in the text the damage they had done with the Clinton investigation and how they could, quote, fix it and make it right.
What's out there?